first Recreation Parks Commission meeting we've had in a while, and there's a couple new faces that I don't recognize, but I guess John will get to all of that. I'm just navigating this new format here, pulling up the agenda. True. So should we first start with a roll call?
Letter A first, actually.
All right, let's see. I'd like to call the meeting to order and administer the oath of office for new and reappointed commissioners.
So, hi, I'm Eleanor Manzano. I'm the city clerk. And so I'll need Commissioner Corm and Commissioner McCauley, Commissioner S. Contreras, and Commissioner Alameda. If I could please have you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I think you're all unmuted. Great. Okay. So I've never done it before. Usually it's two. So we'll see. It'll come out how it comes out. So I state your name.
I
Adam Almeida.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations. So I will be, my staff will be sending you your certificate. You'll keep the blue one, you'll sign it, and then there'll be a copy right underneath that, and we'll give you a self-addressed envelope, and if you can send that back to us. So congratulations, and then I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chair Jacob to do roll call. And then I'm going to go.
Great. Then I guess we move forward with the roll call. Is that right?
Correct.
Commissioner Almeida?
Yes.
Commissioner Arata, absent. Commissioner Burling?
Here.
Commissioner Escontrias?
Hi.
Commissioner Corman Super?
Present.
Commissioner McCauley?
Here.
Vice Chair Varvarigos?
Here. All right. And now I'd like to move forward with the salute to the flag. Commissioner Corman Super, would it be okay if I invite you to lead us in the
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag.
United States of America.
And to the republic
Which stands
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. And we've all taken a moment to look over the order of the agenda, and are there any changes that need to be made to the agenda, or can we entertain a motion to approve the order?
I'll make a motion to approve the order.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, then let's move forward with letter E, blue folder items and additional backup materials.
There are no blue folder items tonight, Vice Chair.
Okay, and then with consent calendar, should I read the item underneath consent calendar?
Yeah, you have to read that paragraph. Thank you.
Okay. So consent calendar, item F, business items except those formally noticed for public hearing or discussion are assigned to the consent calendar. The commission members may request that any consent calendar items be removed, discussed, and acted upon separately. Items removed from the consent calendar will be taken up under the excluded consent calendar section below. Those items remaining on the consent calendar will be approved in one motion following oral communications. And so if there are any items that you'd like to remove from the consent calendar, I guess now would be the time to make that known.
John?
Yes, Commissioner McCauley.
The document you're referring to, do I have a copy of that, or am I supposed to have a copy of it?
The agenda is available on the city's website, Commissioner McCauley. If you want to, you can go to the city's website online as we're doing the meeting. You can, there's a, right on the homepage, there's a agendas for council commissions icon. You click on that, you'll see our meeting listed there for 10/14. You can click on agenda and it will load the agenda face. And then each that has any bearing on the meeting has a link to the specific report related to that item, if necessary.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Of course.
Sorry to interrupt.
We entertain a motion. Is that what I move forward with that, John?
Yes, Vice Chair Varvarigos, if you have a motion in a second, you will do what's called a roll call vote, since we can't take a show of hands online. So you just call on each commissioner, or I can do the roll call vote for you, calling on each commissioner to aye, nay, or abstain on every vote for any item. You can ask me to do that, or you can do whatever you prefer.
If you would do that, that'd be fine.
Certainly. So you have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar, is that correct?
Do we have a motion?
I move. I so move.
Thank you, Stephen. And a second?
Great. Commissioner Almeida?
Aye.
Commissioner Arata, absent. Commissioner Burling?
Aye.
Commissioner Escontrias?
Aye.
Commissioner Corman-Super?
Aye.
Commissioner McCauley?
Abstain?
And Vice Chair Varvarigos? Did you want to vote, Jacob? I think Jacob is frozen.
And yeah, I get the impression he's having because I out for me.
All right, no worries. He'll come back. So we would, and Commissioner McCauley, you're abstaining because you haven't seen the items.
Correct.
Correct. Great. Okay. Sorry for that. So with the approval of the consent calendar, we would then move item G is there is no excluded consent calendar items. There's Jacob's back. Great. Okay, cool.
Aye.
Thank you. Very good. Way to be consistent.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to flip back to my agenda, and I think it glitched me out.
No worries.
Okay, so
Just for the record, there were no public comments regarding the consent calendar.
Okay, then that would mean we move on to item F1, the affidavit of posting.
Well, that is your consent calendar, Vice Chair, so you've just approved that. So you move to item H.
Item H. Okay, I see. So all of those items, I see. Item H, public participation of non-agenda items. This section is intended to provide members of the public with the opportunity to comment on any subject that does not appear on this agenda for action. This section is limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be afforded 3 minutes to address the commission. Each speaker will be permitted to speak only once. Written requests, if any, will be considered first under the section.
And there is, let me just...
So how does this work? Is there only...
Commissioner and Vice Chair, any public comment that is received on this area, either it's somebody who's called in and registered to speak under non-agenda items, or they have submitted an e-comment through the city's online portal. And I'm just refreshing my screen to confirm that there is no non-agenda item public comment submitted. So we can move past that item.
Okay. Then, since we have no public participation on non-agenda items or comments, let's see, we move forward to the items continue from previous agendas and items for discussion prior to action. And then, or do we move on to J1? Election of
J1, yes,
officers.
that's correct.
Okay. So J1, election of officers. So at this point, is this something that you introduced, John, or is it this
I'll
is
be
just
happy
where
to,
we're
Vice Chair, yes.
okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. John Leroy, Community Services Director. So every October or the meeting subsequent to October, by the bylaws and the city charter, every commission holds elections for the appointment of a chair and a vice chair. Chair runs the meeting, much like you see Vice Chair Vavrikos doing. The vice chair serves in place of the chair if that person is not present at a meeting to run it. For redundancy's sake, you can self-nominate if you want to be chair or vice chair. You can nominate somebody else if you want them to be chair or vice chair. There's no limit on how many years you can be chair or vice chair. So with that, you could the vice chair would call for nominations for both positions, close nominations, then take a vote on each of those in terms of a motion and a second and approving. And then once we have all of those tallied, we would then have those chair and vice chair, quote, seated, even though we're not in the dais to seat you appropriately. Thank you. Available for any questions.
All right, thanks, John. Well, then I guess the first thing to do would be to open the elections to discussion and nominations.
For vice, you would.
So if you have any comment.
This is Steve. I'd like to nominate Kate for the chairman.
Okay, Kate.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. And do we have any nominations for the vice chair?
I guess I will nominate Commissioner Burling for vice chair.
Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
I
Aye. Sounds good to me.
Just for the record, I will read that that Commissioner Corman Super is nominated to the position of chair, and Commissioner Burling is nominated to the position of vice chair. Just for the record.
That's right. Sounds good to me. So at that point, we virtually switch chairs. Is that right? And
yes, hand the gavel above a screen to your left.
Congratulations to Kate. And that means Kate would lead the meeting from here. Is that right?
That is correct. And Vice Chair Vavrikos, let me acknowledge your service on the commission as vice chair and oftentimes sitting in as chair substitute. So thank you for your leadership in that role.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. So I suppose now we are moving on to the to J2, the community gardens presentation. John?
Thank you, Chair Corman Super. Community gardens has been a frequent topic in the city amongst many different interested parties who over time have approached the city to install a community garden on various public spaces throughout the city. There is a new effort, a partnership between the South Bay Parkland Conservancy and a representative from the Garden of Guadalupe, Brianna Egan. We'll hear from her in a moment. And they have solicited the city council for their consideration of allowing a community garden in a specific location. The city council is having a strategic planning session on October 29th. That's from 1 to 6 p.m. It will be virtual, much like our meeting tonight. And I have offline referred the Conservancy to address their interest in the community garden project that they are formulating directly to the City Council, because it would really be their consideration under the planning format to delegate responsibility for advancing that type of a project to staff, both from the land assessment and implementation and costing and so forth, and then ultimately reporting back to the council on impacts for installing such a facility. So tonight's item is essentially informational for the commission. You can certainly ask questions of Ms. Egan and also Mr. Barbarigos. Commissioner Barbarigos is an officer with the South Bay Parkland Conservancy. But like I indicated, I have encouraged the Conservancy and Ms. Egan to advance this item with the City Council at their upcoming strategic planning session. So Ms. Egan is online. Allow her to talk, and Ms. Egan, you're free to address the commission and the public, as well as share your screen and present any visual information you wish to the commission.
Hello, Recreation and Parks Commission. My name is Brianna Egan. Thank you for the introduction. I'm looking at my screen and I don't see controls to share a presentation, but I do have one prepared. Is there a way that I can receive access to that?
I'm sorry, Brianna, could you repeat that again? Brianna? Brianna?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry. What did you request? I apologize.
No problem. So I would like to share my screen with the presentation that we have prepared, but on the Zoom screen for me, I don't see an option to share that.
Okay. Brianna, I'm going to make you a panelist.
Okay.
And then you will be able to share your screen.
Okay. There we go. I'll get my light. Thank you. Okay. So I'll go ahead and start sharing a presentation that we have. I know that also members of my committee, Barbara Epstein and Mara Copano, are planning to share as well. Would they also be able to have their mics enabled so that they could speak?
We will go in turn. It's not a conversation. Each guest will speak separately. So, Brianna, once you are completed, then I will call in any other registrants to speak on the item.
Okay, sounds good. So then I'll just go ahead and start us off, and then I can hand the remainder of the presentation to my committee members. So I'll go ahead and share the screen. Okay. All right. Are you able to see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you for the opportunity to be able to present an informational presentation. As Mr. John LaRock had shared, this is an initiative of the South Bay Parkland Conservancy, and we are asking to create the first official community garden for Redondo Beach. So just a bit of some introduction and background. So we are representing the South Bay Parkland Conservancy, which is a local nonprofit that has been involved in projects like habitat restoration. They work in the wilderness park as well. And they're very interested in promoting access to green space for the residents of South Bay cities. And I personally became involved with this project through a neighborhood garden project that we called Garden of Guadalupe that sprung up over the summer of this year and really took off. It was more of an experimental plot and just a demonstration for being able to share to neighbors in Redondo Beach about what they could grow and what's possible to grow in a garden in our climate. And so a little bit about myself. I'm a lifelong resident of Redondo Beach, born and raised. I'm a graduate of UC San Diego and a current master's student in public health. And I'm studying public health nutrition. So gardening and food access are causes that are very near and dear to my heart. We have an amazing team of committee members, including members of the South Bay Parkland Conservancy and other Redondo Beach residents who have joined the effort. So I'm joined by Barbara Epstein, Mara Copano, Bill Pettit, and Caroline Boo in our committee. And we're also joined by the South Bay Parkland Conservancy and other community partners. So just an overview of what we've done so far. Over the summer, we presented our vision at community meetings for 2 council members, Nils Nierenham and Todd Lowenstein. We also sent out a survey to residents of Redondo Beach and received about 60 responses to that. We have had several meetings developing a vision for the space, and we've also drafted a design for the landscape and an estimated budget, which we will share tonight. Just a few statements of support that we've received, and this was received through our survey. We also have a document that we are attaching to this agenda item for the public to read all 25 statements of support. And I'll just go ahead and read the first statement, which is written by a local retired teacher in Redondo Beach. He says, Redondo Beach should use the COVID-19 experience to try something new that will add value to our community, enhance personal nutrition, teach science, ecology to our students, and foster a spirit of sharing with the community at large. Society is quickly transitioning in many areas of life. This is an opportunity to positively change our city. There's many more comments similar to this, just basically representing the idea that a community garden is something that has been a long time coming, and it's something that now more than ever we need for our city. So I'll begin by sharing the vision for the space, and then I'll hand it over to other committee members. What we have in mind, and this is developed based on the feedback we've received from our survey, as well as information that we've gathered from resources like the Los Angeles Community Garden Council. Actually the location, we have yet to hear from the city about an official site that we could use. But in our conversation with Councilman Nierenham, he suggested Alta Vista Park to be a place that we can consider. And so in our walkthroughs of the park itself, we've identified a location that's circled in green, and it's located on the corner of Julia and Serpentine, and it has kind of a triangle space with good sunlight, good parking, and also irrigation access. So a little bit about what we would like to have. We're thinking in the sense of more of a traditional community garden, which means a fenced garden with plots that are available for annual rental for an annual fee. So the garden would be pretty self-sustaining financially by these plot rentals. And this is actually photos from the Hermosa Beach Community Garden, which we think we would probably model the aesthetics and the visuals of our garden pretty well off of theirs, because they've done a good job of beautifying the space with their garden. Other aspects, we're thinking about having a workshop space with seating, and this is a place where the community can gather, they can learn different topics like native plants or how to successfully grow tomatoes, intercropping or composting. And so in addition to this, there would be a location for community compost bins on the site. And this could be a demonstration site, or it could also be a neighborhood composting co-op, which is something that does exist throughout LA. Other aspects is we are thinking about a communal orchard with perennials, So drought-tolerant fruit trees, things like figs and pomegranate, could border the space, as well as herbs and perennials like artichoke and grapevines that can be available for harvesting from the community and members of the garden. Additionally, in conversation with the native plant expert for the South Bay Parkland Conservancy, we've discussed having a native habitat restoration project along the Alta Vista Park hillsides. Currently, as many of you know, if you've walked past Alta Vista, especially during the summer, the hillsides are brown and pretty barren, and it doesn't seem like there's much upkeep by anyone or the city. So if we could take that under our wing, we'd be glad to. And we're thinking about doing things like spreading coastal sage scrub seeds along the hillside and also planting pioneer plants that can help nurse these seeds to life. With the idea that if we can restore the native habitat, we can actually extend the corridor for native insects like the El Segundo blue butterfly or the Palos Verdes blue butterfly. And this would be an extension of the wilderness park restoration and serve as just an extended habitat for those species. Next, I will share some benefits of the Redondo Beach Community Garden. Aside from maybe the physical benefits, these are more intangible. So a community garden would establish a shared space for members of Redondo Beach to build community. I feel, as someone who's grown up in Redondo Beach, that this is something that is missing. I've lived in places like Santa Cruz and even Costa Rica, places that are known to be more environmentally conscious and have more of a focus on community. And I feel that if you can bring more green space and more access to people to just get down to the same level ground, it provides a lot of sense of community. Other benefits would be knowledge sharing on how to grow food, how to be resilient within a changing climate. Also, improving access to green space and food growing space, especially given that there's more density in a lot of parts of our city. Next, we would be raising the eco-literacy of youth and families just by having a garden space for people to look at, something that's growing and something that's alive. I think it really changes the consciousness of people. And it really adds much more besides just having grass growing. Lastly, we would have the possibility to connect with schools and partners to be able to teach and learn things like ecology, nutrition, sustainable agriculture, and local environmental issues. So at this point, if I may, I would like to turn over my microphone to Mara Capano, if she's on right now. She's the Vice President for the South Bay Parkland Conservancy, and she will be sharing a bit about our budget, the design for the space, and what we request from the city. So if you could...
Okay, so Brianna, I'm going to go ahead and return you to the attendee pool. And is that Mara Lang you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, great. Okay, very good. Hang on just a second, please. Okay, Mara?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, very good. Okay, you're on. You may address the commission.
Okay, great. Is there any way that I could go back to Brianna's presentation? Because I think she has the budget that we worked on in that presentation.
I think I can actually open a budget for you and share it.
Okay.
Just to make things easier. Bear with us, commission. Okay.
Okay, great. So Brianna did a really great job of talking about how far we've come in the discussion and really looking at the benefits of bringing a community garden to Redondo Beach. So the next step is figuring out how much this is going to cost. And from the very beginning, we decided that although we needed some land from the city, and we needed to identify a spot that was not being currently used, we knew that we did not want to ask for any money at this point. And our hope is that we can raise funds, have a lot of the materials donated, and pay for this all without needing to come to the city for money. So this is based on Brianna's drawings, which I don't know if I did not see the drawings so far presented, but based on her drawings in that same space, it's about a 3,000 square foot fenced in area, which is actually not including the hillside that leads up to Serpentine. So we did some calculations, and if you could scroll down just a little bit, let's see the total. Yeah, so as you can see, there's a lot. The fencing is going to cost the most, and this is just a general, I thought it was important to share this with the committee and eventually, or the commission, and eventually the city council, because it's going to be a large investment. But I think it's important that everyone knows how much this is going to cost. And of course, since it is going to be on city property, we want to make sure that everything is done up to standards. And so I think if we can eventually get to Brianna's, her drawing, you can see that it's going to be a beautiful space. She's really plotted everything out, utilizing the space that we have. And I think it could really be a perfect location for this initial garden, and a space that we could really bring to life. You know, it's just kind of sitting there on the side of the parking lot. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about the budget or the money. We have not started reaching. It's one of those things where we need to make sure that we're going to be able to work with the city on securing permission to use the land before we really hit the ground running with getting trying to get some of these donations and things. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about the budget. Or where the money is going to come from, or anything to do with that.
This is Steve. I may be premature, but you said you would lease these plots out. That's sort of like when you go to the city and sort of ask them for all this, we have sort of a operating budget and what that pro forma might look like as time goes on.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and that's something that we're definitely going to dive into. This is actually the first budget that we put together for this project, and as you can see, although Brianna's presentation is really put together and we know what the intent is, we haven't, gotten into the details of operating costs, how much every piece of hardware is going to cost to build this, and things like that. But that's definitely on our list.
I have a question.
I believe that Commissioner Corman Super raised her hand first. Commissioner McCall?
I don't have a question about the budget. So if it's a specific question about the budget, I should definitely wait. So anyone else can go if it's specific to the budget, because mine isn't.
John, how do I raise my hand on this to?
I didn't know.
Mine?
If you go down to participants,
I see.
you can see a raise your hand icon.
Anyway, if Commissioner McCauley wants to ask a question about the budget, that's totally fine. I just raised my hand for later, essentially. I have a bunch of questions, but not about the budget.
John, is there any way that, should we just bring, because can Brianna and I have the floor at the same time, or do you want her to come back on at the end to answer the questions? Because she's kind of the lead on the project.
Okay, so Mara, we would conclude your public comments and then I can bring Brianna back. I do have another public speaker and some e-comments to read as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we can mute you and then return to Brianna after I hear from the third public speaker.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that would be good. I think I'm done. Yeah.
Great. So the next speaker is Barbara Epstein.
Thank you, John. I'm Barbara Epstein. I'm on the board of South Bay Parkland Conservancy, and I had the good fortune to bump into Brianna. A friend introduced us and told me that I had to meet Brianna because she knew I was very interested in gardens. So what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to thank Brianna for her excellent presentation. And I'd like to also say hello to our commission. I know that we have new commissioners, and I'm very pleased to meet you. Does anybody have any questions for me? So I will turn it over to whoever else would like to speak.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. We'll return to Brianna to continue any presentation elements and take additional questions from the commission.
Thank you. Do you mind if you can add me as a panelist again?
Certainly.
I can share the screen. Thank you.
Okay, Brianna.
Okay, great. So thank you, Mara and Barbara, for sharing. I'll go ahead and wrap up the slides that we have. Okay. So as we have shared, the garden will be structured mainly in a format that is managed by South Bay Parkland Conservancy, but located on city park property. And so the city would function essentially as a land partner and would also be a major part of discussion on like how to build and also irrigation and water. And this needs to be hashed out more in detail. As Mara mentioned, we do plan to raise funds for the garden through things like grants, donations, and also the annual fees for the plots. And the hope is that the garden in its first site would really be a proof of concept and show the city that this is something that is needed, that is desired, and also can be successful. So we do hope to have other sites eventually in North Redondo and other parts of the city. So this is the design draft that we've made, and it's gone through a few versions. You can recognize that same little site of Alta Vista that we've circled, but this time you can see that it has space for 26 raised beds that are 4 by 8 foot boxes. There is irrigation, as we mentioned, fencing that would line up with some existing fencing, and a hillside that currently is pretty overgrown with ivy. So one of the first things we would do is probably have a community work day, remove the ivy and plant the coastal sage scrubs, seeds or fruit trees. And so you can see the section in blue for the shade structure and the workshop area. To the right of that is a sink and a shed for storage. There's also the 3-bin composting system, wheelbarrow storage, And then on the right-hand side of the site would be the sections for the beds with enough space for 5 foot pathways along the horizontal, and then 3 foot pathways along the vertical areas. So this is currently what we have going, just in our initial discussion. And then the budget that Mara shared, this is the full estimate if we go all out with like having a shade structure and the premium lumber and that type of thing. And we do have a lean budget that we have reduced some of the fencing to use the existing fencing. We've also taken out that shade structure in this budget because there are trees that do provide good shade. Finally, this is just our request that we are bringing to you as a commission and also to the city. We would like to have formal approval in order to move forward in discussion to have the garden located on city park space. And this also means that we would hope to be included in the strategic planning meeting coming up October 29th. And then we are ready to speak with city staff, whether that's Parks and Rec staff or Public Works staff. If we can start having some conversations and figuring out details to move forward, that would be a huge step forward for us. Lastly, I'll just finish with some photos of another local community garden. This is in Torrance at Columbia Park. They do have really large spaces for people to rent, but you can see some of the inspiration of what's possible and what you can grow. I think there's some dragon fruit there and possibly some grapevines and lettuce plants. So thank you for allowing us to share. And this is just a message for anyone, any member of the public who might be watching this. If you are interested in getting involved, we have an email newsletter and we can add you to that. So feel free to send me an email, and my email is written on the slide. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak, and I will stop. Well, maybe if you want to ask questions, I can stay with the screen share and there might be some relevant slides. So we can take questions now. If there's any. Or let me know what you'd like me to do. If you want me to, I can stop the screen share too.
Yeah, Brianna, I'm going to return you back to an attendee role.
Sure.
I'll share your screen, and then Chair Corman Super, you can go ahead and there's a number of raised hands that you can see there.
Oh, I can only see my own.
That's okay. So yourself, Commissioner Escontrias, Commissioner Varvarigos, Commissioner McCauley, Commissioner Almeida. So really no order. You can just call on people as you go.
Okay. Maybe I'll just ask a couple of questions, and maybe there'll be other people's questions as well. First of all, thank you so much for presenting to us. That was really awesome and extremely timely. I feel like many of us have, in this period of time, started our own little gardens. I know I have. I planted a vegetable garden at the beginning of this, and I hate to say that I think I have a black thumb, so I could definitely use some guidance from you, I'm sure. So my question is sort of about the location in one part, and then the other part is just because I'm kind of unfamiliar with community gardens, just to sort of get a little bit more detail about exactly how it works. So so people, essentially individuals, so people in Redondo Beach would rent little parts of it in order to grow whatever it is that they want to grow. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Brianna.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I thought, thank you for, okay. So to answer your question, typically the standard way that a community garden would operate is that they have plots available in various sizes, and then members of the community sign up They, in exchange for an annual fee, which is anywhere from $25 to $100 in LA County. So in exchange for that fee, as well as signing some bylaws and some rules and regulations, they would have access to that space for 1 year, and it can be renewable. I think the other thing important to note is that oftentimes the rules and regulations can be pretty specific. And so as we craft that, we could write certain things into there, maybe limiting the growth of certain plants that would be invasive, or also having a stipulation that members maintain their site and that it looks kept like it's kept well. So there's things you can write into that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then as far as just from what you know about Hermosa and Torrance, what are any, if any, security issues or issues of trespassing and such? Sort of, what are those sort of guidelines?
That's a great question. We are still trying to get in touch with the Hermosa Beach Community Garden. We've reached out, but that would be definitely a meeting we'd like to have. As far as I know, both of those gardens have padlocks on the. So they have a fence that secures the location, and then they have a padlock that has like a combination lock. And so members of the garden have access to that combo, and then they can actually enter. So yeah, I think that as long as you have good security in place, it should be pretty well secured. I think also there's a lot to say about if you treat a space with respect and you keep it looking nicely, I think other people will also respect that as well. So something that we create that's a benefit and that's beautiful for the community will be hopefully something they also respect.
Okay, and then my last question, then I'll call on other people, is about the proposed location. My family's super familiar with the location because my boys play in Redondo Sunset, and I know that, AYSO operates out of there as well. And most of the time, that one parking lot that you're referencing that's right near there is probably less busy than other areas, but it does get pretty jammed when there are games and practices all happening at the same time. And I just, and I don't want to, I know it's tough to find a city location for anything, but I just do want to make sure that everybody who's chosen that location is aware that not only is that, a Alta Vista school area, but then it is utilized for a lot of other things as well in the fall and the spring. And I do know, having volunteered for Redondo Sunset and cleaning trash off of those hillsides, though, that some beautification of those slopes would be absolutely amazing. So I completely agree with that. That would be, if you are going to start the community garden, that would be amazing, because that definitely those little areas, I know exactly what you're talking about, definitely need some work. So, but yeah, those are just my questions that I wanted to bring up. I don't know who was next, but I will call on Commissioner McCauley. I think that's me.
Hello, Brianna, and thank you for the presentation as well. I think you did a really good job, and I think you have a really good idea, and I agree as well that the fixing up the hill is a great idea. I know that it gets pretty dry and pretty dirt up there, and a lot of the dirt comes down onto the playing fields as well. So any type of getting plants on the hill is a great idea, and I think even the leagues will support that. My only concern is the location as well. It is a pretty highly used park. I think that actual physical space is a dead zone. So I think the garden there is a good idea of where you're actually planning on putting it. But I am concerned, like, with the traffic. I would recommend, if we were to go through and do this, to kind of limit maybe on the weekends when the leagues are all there and that parking lot does get filled to maybe reduce the number of people who might be competing for those spaces. That's something that we would have to talk about. But I do like the location as far as with the school, because I think Alta Vista has a gardening program and they're really limited in their space, what they have. And it would be great to just have the kids cross the street and go right to that location. It's right adjacent to the school. And so educationally, I think that would be really a big plus for the community. And I just wonder though, as far as how are you going to manage who gets those plots? Like if there's 30 plots, like you just pay, it's first come, first serve, and they get to plant whatever they want all year round. And I'm not familiar with how a community garden works. But I do think that the location can work if we mitigate like the traffic and we incorporate the school. I think that would be a really good thing to really focus on the educational aspects. So I guess my question just would be, I see you've done a lot of detailed planning with the physical space. Have you thought about much with the traffic and the high traffic of the park at all?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing those concerns. Definitely very valid and something that we have had conversations about within our committee. So it is good to hear your input. I would say that we're not necessarily like married to that location in a sense. We have been waiting on hearing from the city to identify locations that would be usable for community gardens. And I think we've been also interested in a location at Dominguez Park, which is currently mostly barren. I think it's on the south end of the park, and there may have been plans to do a canine type of operation there. But yeah, so I think I would say that we're open if there are maybe better locations that you could suggest, and we can adapt what we've prepared for those locations. So I think I'm trying to remember. That would be if we are going to be in that location that we just proposed in Alta Vista. I think we would definitely need to traffic patterns are like, and also probably speaking with the leagues. Do you have suggestions about how we could go about doing some field exploration and looking into those conversations?
As far as other locations or this location?
Firstly for the Alta Vista location, what would you recommend for us to?
I would say I would communicate with the leagues to find out first just their schedules and see when the park is going to be very busy. I think as a community garden, my question is this more of a weekend, the people that are going to be using it, or is it more during the week?
I think that, I would actually invite you to, on your own time, maybe visit the Hermosa Beach Community Garden. It's located in South Park, which is just off of Valley Boulevard. But I've gone to that location at different times of the week, weekdays and weekends, and it's never very full. The gardens look well kept, but each time I've gone, I've maybe seen one or two gardeners working there, if anything. So I don't think the community garden would have an effect on traffic in the parking. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't go to I would like to go to a community garden, but yeah, if the traffic, like if only, a handful of people go there during the weekend at any one time, then I don't think that would be an issue as far as traffic and whatnot. I think for sure you'd probably need a fence on that location just to kind of, because you do get, sometimes some kids that may go around and want to get in there. So a fence would be helpful for that. But I think the location, I think the size of the location for what you want to do, and being a beginning, what do you call it, like a trial location?
Yeah. Pilot.
I think is fits. You know, I think it's not a bad location for that.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I do think, do you have like educational programs lined up? So if it all goes through, would you be able to people that at the school that you can coordinate with to get the kids there to use?
So that's a great idea. I know that the Beach Cities Health District coordinates a lot of the school gardening programs for RBUSD, so that would definitely be a partnership to cultivate. And I know that South Bay Parkland Conservancy does have existing relationships with Redondo Union and South High for high school students who are interested in ecology type of work.
In at the Redondo Beach School District, they have the docents that do the gardening, and they would be good people to reach out to. We could probably help you out with.
Okay, great. Yeah.
But I think it's a good idea. So I think the traffic is, if it's not a huge number of cars, I don't think it'd be a problem. So thank you. I don't want to take up too much more time, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's go to Commissioner Escontrias.
Yes, I have just a quick question. I think it would be a little remiss if we don't look at it from a different perspective. How much of a cost is this to the city? By that I mean is that although your budget indicates that there's a lot of internal and infrastructure type of funding that's required, but my question would be the cost of the city as it relates to irrigation and the water. Will that be paid by your organization, or is that it's going to be asked that all water for this endeavor be donated by the city? The reason I ask, it goes beyond normal just watering of lawns and such, and may require a lot more water than any other facility.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Right, so I think there's a difference between maybe the startup costs that are involved and then the ongoing like annual cost. So just to differentiate that, the budget that we shared is for the startup and building the site and retrofitting the existing irrigation system, that type of thing. But I believe your question is more asking about the ongoing like annual water costs. That's something that we haven't really projected a number for, but there are calculations that we can work on to find maybe the gallons per month that would be used by the space. So that's definitely something we should look into. And then, yeah, I think it would be a conversation with the city where we're not asking for the city to like financially sustain this project by any means. I think it would mostly be self-sustaining with the membership fees and any donors. So I would point out too that the site that we have identified is like all grass. There's also along the hillside the ivy that I mentioned, and all of that does get watered right now. And there is a significant water bill, I'm sure, that's coming from that site right now. So we would be essentially removing that grass, replacing it with wood chips, and putting the raised beds on. So I think, I would be curious to know how the water costs would change. But typically, like lawn is very intensive in terms of water use. So I would hope that the community garden would use like maybe about the same water or not too much more. Hopefully that's the plan. But again, yeah, we have some garden advisors on our team, so we will definitely project out those costs and then discuss with the city if that's an item that could be included into their budget or if they want us to pay for that. Mm-hmm.
My question is basically is to ensure that at least that's addressed in some form or another, whether the city decides to go along with it or that there's some issue. Again, because although grass may appear to require more watering, but that area is also open to the public. Once you kind of shut it down, then you kind of then have an idea of limiting the number of people that have access to it, and therefore it's more exclusive. And I think it's better to put it up front as to that issue before it comes up later on, where somebody complains that it's somehow geared towards other people. And then that's a cost that the city may or may not want to bear.
Yeah, thank you. We will definitely have that as a priority to discuss with the city. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Rodriguez?
Thank you. Thanks, Brianna, for the presentation and for the other speakers, and for all the work that you've been putting together, working with community members. To me, that's probably the biggest job that has been going on here, has been tapping the pulse of what the community wants and what the community has been asking for years, really. And the fact that Redondo Beach doesn't have a community garden within the South Bay is just something that we can fix, and we do have the resources to do that. And so it's great to actually see really passionate community members come forth to be a part of your team, that the South Bay Parkland Conservancy as well, joining in on that, because it does take a community to run a space like this, in a partnership with the city as well. I think that that obviously the components of the design will change as anything with the garden, and the cost will change as well. But the fact that you've put that forward and are looking through that is good help and can be submitted on to the city council. What I really like about this plan is not only that we're using a derelict space in a park that doesn't get used by anybody. We're not really taking anything away from anybody. We have acres and acres and acres of grass in Redondo Beach, and very few people actually go out and use most of it. And so to change a portion of that, a small portion, to a community garden, to give the city an amenity that it is lacking, is creating a huge value. And it's not just one community garden that we need, but many community gardens to fulfill the need of a lot of people. And so obviously this model that Hermosa Beach has been, and Torrance Beach, there's lots of models to do these. And that would be a good question for the community, for the city council to discuss, as far as what model is best for our city. And that the city has a Conservancy behind it, which is an organization of people, local people, who are involved in the long-term preservation of this space is a huge benefit. My personal feeling on funding for this space is that community garden has been on the city's Redondo Beach's city plan. They've been wanting this for a long time, and while the Conservancy and community members will rally and come forth and raise money, it's my personal feeling that this is something that the city can come forward with and also help out with. But that's also something that the city council can determine the value, especially when hundreds of thousands of dollars are being spent on very small repairs throughout the city. $50,000 for a community garden is pennies in a bucket. And so obviously those numbers will change, but it's good to have the support of people who are coming to us and telling us, the city council and the commission, what's important. Is there, Brianna, I have a question. Is there like a log of community comments and things that can be accessed, and this information that you've been putting together, is it a part of a bigger presentation or something that people can access and see?
Thank you. We have submitted attachments that I've sent to John LaRock that would be included on the agenda, I believe. And those attachments would be firstly, the comments of support that we've received from community members. There's about 25 comments, and they're organized by general sentiment. And then we secondly have the design that is a draft, and that's a PDF. And then thirdly, we have the budget, which again is also a draft. Perhaps I could also share the slides that I presented and make a PDF if that's something that could still be added onto the public section. That would be great. I think aside from that, if folks are interested in getting involved, you can check out the South Bay Parkland Conservancy website and sign up for that newsletter. And then we also have a newsletter of our own, which we may start to merge with the South Bay Parkland newsletter. Yeah, so I guess the best place would be to find the documents that are located as attachments to the agenda on the city website.
I see. That's good to know. I had a few more comments and maybe another question. As far as trespassing, I appreciate what you explained about that, and it seems like the fences, the fences do definitely deter, but people can hop fences, and people can, if they really want to steal a tomato or a strawberry, I'm sure that they could do that. But the fences is being that most expensive thing to kind of create that exclusivity. Because if there weren't any fences, then I guess people would just make away with the vegetables and stuff like that. I really like this plan more also for the educational benefit for the community. Creating a common space where people can learn, opening that up as a community space. There would definitely be people renting raised gardens, but if you have this bench type learning area, then anybody can rent that out. Anybody can do a workshop on composting or whatever, and so forth. And so we really don't have a space like that in the city where we can have those types of outdoor discussions. Maybe Wilderness Park or places like that. But the educational program, I can speak as far as my experience. The students local in that area, the elementary schools and the environmental clubs are very active. And as far as developing the slopes and restoring habitat in that area, it would be an extension of existing activities, educational program from the Conservancy. So I guess my comments are the cost to the city and the ongoing cost of the city to me are nominal. It's not for what we're paying for and what we don't have. We don't have a community garden, and so we need it, and definitely in this time. So, but the benefit that we get from it are huge, and so just to wrap up my comments on the community garden, I definitely support this initiative, and any other times it's been presented to the city over the last 10 years that I've been around. And I think it's time to ask the city and the city council to find the right space, whether it's in Alta Vista Park or some other spot, and to support the initiative of Brianna and the South Bay Parkland Conservancy to manage this resource long-term park. So I would say, to close that, I would make a motion that we refer this on to the city council, that the need is to have a community garden, whether or not it's in that space or not, that they look at look at the presentation and see if I have. Yeah, I think that's it. Maybe I can refine that motion, but that's what I would say, is to to make a motion to support the formation of a community garden in Redondo Beach, to find if it's Alta Vista be the right spot or the right spot, determine what those costs might be, the ongoing, and then and South Bay Park and Conservancy can come back with more information on what they're doing, funding and support and so forth.
Thank you, Jacob. We really appreciate your support and your leadership in helping us make this possible.
Just before we do a motion, were there other commissioners that wanted to question or comment? Brianna? No?
Chair Corman Super, I have one online public comment I'd like to read into the record.
Okay.
This is a comment from Sheila Lamb. The first paragraph, current Parks and Recreation element states the following, quote, availability of public parkland and recreational facilities greatly influences the quality of life in the city of Redondo Beach. Not only does recreation contribute to the health and well-being of residents, builds a sense of community by creating opportunities for physical, social, and cultural interaction, end quote. I believe that implementing community gardens in Redondo Beach will improve the quality of life of residents and create opportunities for physical, social, and cultural interactions. That concludes the comment. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay, if no one else has any comments or questions, I think I'd like to go ahead and then, John, how does this work? I just want to kind of add to Commissioner Varvarigos's motion.
You can make a, well, his motion does not have a second currently.
Oh, okay.
It has a second, it doesn't advance, but if it gets a second, you can make a friendly amendment, which
right.
you can choose to accept, as does the seconder, or you can make a substitute motion, which if it gets a second, gets voted on first before Commissioner Varvarigos's motion.
Okay, well then I'll just go ahead and make my own motion, a substitute motion then, to move this forward with approval by the Recreation and Parks Commission to send this on to City Council with just a little asterisk that if the location is that of Alta Vista Park, that Alta Vista School and the leagues, to include Redondo Sunset and AYSO, are included in discussions about the proposed location.
And if all the motion makers could add receive and file the report, that's also important.
Receive.
Thanks.
I'll second that.
I can do the roll call vote if you'd like, Chair.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Can you do that?
Commissioner Almeida?
I'm sorry. Can I ask a question? Just
Yes.
before so just to be clear, what the motion is exactly that we're telling the City Council?
We're telling the City Council that we approve of this proposal, that we're sending it on to City Council for their approval with a little notation that if the chosen location is in fact Alta Vista Park, that the location should be consulted. They should consult with Alta Vista School and the leagues, Redondo Sunset and AYSO. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you.
That was a yay on my part.
Thank you, Commissioner Almeida. Commissioner Burley?
Yes.
Commissioner Escontrias? You're muted.
Yes.
Commissioner McCauley?
Yes.
Commissioner Varvarigos?
Yes.
Chair Corman Super?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thanks to our speakers.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward, we will move on to item J3, the Dominguez Park Playground Replacement Project.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm going to share my screen so you can see this PowerPoint presentation. Just bear with me a moment. you know, City of Redondo Beach has a capital improvement project to replace the derelict playground equipment in Dominguez Park. Just to familiarize yourself, Dominguez Park, pictured here in full view, it's comprised of many different amenities for the public's enjoyment, including the Redondo Beach Dog Park, the 2 baseball fields, the Historical Museum and Historical Morel House Museum, as well as the playground area, 2 separate public parking lots, and a perimeter walking path with modest exercise equipment along its perimeter. As was mentioned in the previous report, there is also currently a construction laydown area just to the north of the playground area. It's currently being used by Southern California Edison as a laydown space for the pipeline project that is occurring in the northeast corner of the park. But it is ultimately eyed as a future facility for Redondo Beach Police Department to do canine training and exercises. But that is not a codified plan at this point. Regardless, in the yellow circle, you see the overall area of the playgrounds as they're situated in the park. This is a close-up view of the current playgrounds. The issues we're dealing with here in terms of livability and usability of these playgrounds, you can see how bifurcated the 2 playground areas are from each other. Really no physical relationship to the 2 playground areas. The topography of the area here, the playground to the upper right of your screen is at a much higher grade than the lower one to the bottom center of your screen. Also, all of the playground surfaces are sand or what was formerly known as rubberized surface, but over time, due to mixture with sand, as well as the elements, that rubberized surface has hardened to a concrete consistency. You also note that all of the pathways are loose dirt or sand, which is completely non-accessible from an ADA point of view, which obviously we endeavor all of our city facilities to recognize. The other issue that poses a public safety issue is that the roadway here that runs along the upper playground is accessed from the parking lot. City public works vehicles drive this roadway underneath this tree canopy and into the park in general to do maintenance, to pick up trash. It's also used, obviously, currently during the construction project by the gas company. But once that project is complete, it will be used on a maintenance schedule by the gas company with light trucks to do checks on their facility. So the proximity of this active roadway to this playground space with really no barriers is a safety hazard. Additionally, from this end of the parking lot where you see my mouse, this roadway leads to that laydown area. It is contemplated, as I mentioned, that once the gas company is done using this area that continues all the way north for some length, once the gas company is done with this space, there are conceptual plans and some funding in place through a Leadership Redondo project and some police activities to reclaim this space, use as a canine training facility. With that would be the need for access of police to use this roadway to enter what would be that enclosed amenity. So again, this roadway being in very close proximity to this lower playground also poses a safety hazard. So this is a restroom facility here. You see the ADA compliant ramp from the parking lot and the properly graded concrete pathway to get to both the men's and ladies' restrooms. This is a keystone element of this area. The rest of these areas, this is just a random circular patch of grass, and you have some scattered picnic tables here, up here, here, and then a couple down here underneath the tree canopy. But really, and then no sense of place. And then all of these white rocks are stacked in some manner to provide a bollard scenario for traffic traveling on these roadways, but that is not done with any type of engineering eye. Certainly, this rock configuration here, whoops, I apologize. This rock configuration here denotes the drop in grade from this level down to this level. So see here the set of stairs that currently brings entrants or users of the park down to the playground level. But obviously, absent a ramp, this is completely non-ADA compliant to bring users down to this area. So, given the existing conditions, as well as the playground equipment itself, which is far beyond its useful life, is in dire need of replacement in itself, the project scope is to address both the replacement of the playground equipment, but also to reconfigure and repurpose this overall area here as a family-friendly recreation area. So, given that, the city used one of its on-call landscape architect, their name is Architera, you see their information on the slide, to come up with some conceptual planning for how the space could be realized. We could kick this off, luckily, just before the pandemic shut everything down in terms of social interaction. Staff and Architera staff were in Dominguez Park, and we held a public meeting. We had about 50 members of the community, including many children and their parents and guardians, come on a Saturday morning and talk with us about how to experience the current playground area, what they'd like to see, what kind of amenities, and how they would like to see the park enhanced enjoyment. So that was taken away, and staff provided some input as well in terms of feasibilities and so forth, and future needs to the park, and the budget, obviously, which is a great driver of what project can achieve. And this is the latest iteration of planning for the Dominguez project. It's important to note that this stage of development has nothing to do with what type of playground equipment is placed. You see these drawings of various playground amenities. That is not what we are doing at this stage. For those that were participating in the Veterans Park Playground project, that comes with the RFP and the vendors presenting their concepts for what amenities to put in the play spaces that are in here. But the fundamental structure of how the recreation area of the park is designed and implemented is the layer we're dealing with now. So up here, number 16, you see this is the former upper playground area. So the concept is to completely consolidate into this entire play area here for much greater relationship of play, of supervision, line of sight for public safety, as well as to deal with all of the topography of the land. So we're maintaining the grading difference between this upper area and this lower area. You see here, this band here off of the covered gazebo, open air gazebo that's contemplated. There's a built-in slide here, similar to the slide you see in South Park and Hermosa Beach, which we heard from many community members is their favorite feature of that park. This is not as long or not as at sharp an angle as the South Park slide, but still provides a fun way for children to get back and forth between the two zones of land height, and then play equipment that itself, the play experience, as a for instance, to actually have the play experience bring you from one land level to another. And then the suggestion that there are more open play spaces down here with land-based play as opposed to vertical-based play elements. There are new trees contemplated. They're the darker, clear trees. This tree, whoops, my apologies. This tree, and this tree are new. The trees are pre-existing trees. You also see here, it's the formalization of this access roadway with fencing that completely separate the play area from the roadway. This becomes decomposed granite to reduce dust and upkeep vehicles. And then the same is done here for this roadway, bringing in a new pedestrian access from the sidewalk here. So there's no directed sharing of this road. This roadway, this pathway is expressly to access this copse of trees. You see here that the rocks from up here and all of the places are repurposed to create spaces at each of these trees as their trunks are encircled with 360-degree benches, and then accented, and again in the circular concept of the tree and the bench, by these rock wall formations that can be additional seating and play experiences. This is a picnic table here. This has been done. You can see the difference between this tree and this tree. So there are two spaces where granite is utilized. That is to, again, address ADA accessibility. And then two trees that are on grass, which gives the different experience, but we balance it with the required accessibility. So what we're doing at this stage is sharing this with you. We'd love your input on this. After your discussions and input tonight, we would endeavor to recontact all of the people who spoke to us in February. We captured all their information. We would also put this out to the greater Redondo Beach community through various social media and online methods to gather as much virtual public community input as we could. Obviously, we would bring this to various political community meetings, certainly in District 3 where this park is located, but other districts. And just to get as much public input as we can, we would then package your input, the input of the community, provided it doesn't, in its accumulation, indicate something completely different from what is kind of conceptualized here. It would then be codified into a request for proposals that the city council would approve issuing to the industry, at which point the industry would respond with how to actually specifically populate these play areas, how to deal with the topography differences with play areas and slides, how to deal with the ground-based play areas and what amenities are available there, how to implement an open-air gazebo, what does that look like technically, how to establish new picnic tables and benches and these surround benches and so forth, the actual implements that will be placed here. Also, how to design the compliant walkways that are graded both through ramps and stairs to allow for full ADA access to this entire plot, as well as this plot here. So not necessarily just being stamped, not just necessarily being concrete, but is it stamped concrete? Is it an artistic element? You know, are there different materials that can be used, etc.? Also, the whole layer of nighttime lighting would be placed on as an overlay on this, because certainly in the park hours go until 11 or 10 p.m. So accessibility of this park after sunset is important. So a lighting package that goes with this as well. And then putting all of that under the banner of here's the available budget, which, as I noted in the report, is just over $1.2 million currently. And then at that point, we would receive the responses from any number of vendors interested in the project. And then following a quick staff review for responsiveness, then you would see those RFPs for the first time before anyone to weigh in on, you know, your thoughts on what people envision for this space as a new recreation area and amenities. And then it would go to the public, and then we'd probably have at least 2 meetings at the commission where the public could participate. And then we would obviously, hopefully at that point in pandemic time, be able to return to the park itself with those proposals and get direct public feedback live on the space. And then ultimately, based on your recommendations, go to city council with a recommendation for one or more vendors to actually do the project. So with that, I'm available for any questions, but I certainly would enjoy any of your input on that schematic or questions about the project in general. I'll stop sharing, but I'm happy to return to the map as needed. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I can't see any virtual raised hands here.
That's okay. Commissioner Burling has his hand raised.
First of all, let me apologize for speaking without raising my hand before. And that's my first Zoom. Now I see how to do it. I guess my question, when I went up there to look at that area, on your map, you show on the, I guess it would be the south side of the, I guess that's the south side of the park. No, it'd be east, yeah, south. The roadway that you have that goes through there, is it hard to put your sign back up that I can?
Not at all, Commissioner.
That way I can explain it.
Certainly. Sorry, bear with me.
No.
Sorry. Thanks for with. This Commissioner Burling or the new conceptual?
The new conceptual.
Okay, thank you. You're talking about this path?
Oh, I'm sorry. Give me your old, I wouldn't be able to take the old one because I was looking at it here side by
Great.
side.
This roadway. You're looking at this roadway, Commissioner?
Yeah, it's not, I see your face.
Can you not see the shared screen?
No, we don't.
Oh, I apologize, Commissioners. Let me try again. Sorry. How's that?
Okay. So,
Okay, thanks. Sorry.
yeah, so on this one, you know what, I'm sorry, the new one, just look at this road, the road that comes, okay, so where you see road number 1,
Yes, sir.
so, and the one goes on, I know that the land down by the lower level, down towards the bottom here, I guess that's south, is there a way to straighten that road out? I know the land curves down a little bit when I drove up there, it slopes down towards Burl, or wherever that street is. That you wouldn't have that roadway 1 going all the way through the park?
So are you talking about bringing that road like here?
Yeah, that's exactly, yeah. I know it's the road, the land slants down there, but then you wouldn't have a road going through the park with all the kids and people and walking around.
That's again, what I want to do is gather all of your feedback. There are no long responses. So I'm just going to make a note of what you said, Commissioner.
Yeah.
And because I'm not going to, I don't want to respond and tell you yes or no to any.
Oh, well, that's okay. That's fine.
I just want to make a note of that suggestion.
There must be some reason, and so, but just a thought in order to keep the integrity of the space.
So essentially, the comment is to consider changing the access of roadway 1 to Flagler Lane.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Was there anything else, Commissioner Burling, or was that?
Oh, no, that's all. That was, the rest of it looks so, it can be that area certainly needs to be spruced back up again. And I really love the way you can, ADA wise, you can walk around and people older like me can walk without having to worry about steps. And it's just really kind of nice.
Commissioner McCauley has his hand up, Chair.
McCauley.
I agree with Stephen. I think that's actually a great idea. I'm thinking the same thing. If we can have 1 road instead of 2, right? He's thinking go out to Flagler, which is a great idea. My thought was to go from like number 19 to number 12, the 212s, like they combine the roads. Does that make sense?
So this road up here.
Yeah, combine it. So where number 19 just goes straight down to number 12 and then the other number 12, if there could be a pathway just shooting straight down.
So in other words, come along here.
Yeah, and then free up that number 1 path.
And lose this, right?
Yeah.
Even better.
Okay. Great. Let me make a note of that. Thank you. Keep going. And
that's my only observation. Otherwise, I think it's a great idea. I know that you redid the bathrooms not too long ago, and they came out really good. And so that,
Actually, that's like 8 years ago, if you believe it or not.
right, it seems not that long ago, but
I know.
the park definitely needs an updating. So I think this would be a great idea.
Yeah, because just so the commission understands, this is the fence line to the existing former boneyard.
Right.
If and when this becomes a canine facility, I've had discussions to move this fence border further north to just claim a little more green space. There are some excellent trees here as well that the community could really enjoy, I think.
Okay.
So it may be that ability to cheat this line to the north would further allow that roadway suggestion. So,
And the other thing is, I think Steven's suggestion, he's right with the slope there. That may end up being the better route because the usability of that most southern part or bottom part probably isn't very good anyway. It's a very steep kind of angle. So coming in from Flagler may very well be the better angle.
yeah, that'd just be an engineering analysis.
Yeah, but I think we're both thinking the same thing to reduce having two roads. It's better to have one or at least on the perimeter.
Yeah, ideal.
So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Rodriguez has his hand up, Chair.
Okay, Commissioner Rodriguez.
Thank you. Yeah, I have a few questions and comments. So, John, you said that the Architera is, they're just hired for the initial renderings of the concept, but the final design will actually be put forth by many different playground vendors who actually, that's what they do.
Correct. So what we're doing at this level, Commissioner Rodriguez, is essentially setting the table for vendors to fill in, right? You know,
right. I received a community comment about the design, about the company Architera not having experience designing playgrounds and things like that. However, yes. I realize now that it's not really at that stage.
Well, yeah, Commissioner Rodriguez, thank you. I received that comment, and I'll read that into the record before we conclude. But I was, what I will say though is that Architera and the consultants that we've been working with from that agency have done dozens, if not hundreds, of playgrounds across California and in Arizona and New Mexico. So I'm not sure what research might be indicating that understanding, but regardless, this is germane to their business.
Sounds good. The comments that I had, I've walked this site quite a bit, and I've spent some time in that playground before with my kids, and it definitely needs a lot of help. And it seems like most of what the design is right now is trail, ADA accessibility, and just creating a better flow and connectivity of these resources that doesn't really exist right there. And I went around and kind of walked at least the proposed routes of the sidewalks, and one thought that came into my mind is regarding future trail plans of Beach City's health district, which is just across the street on Flagler, and looking into their master plan of trails that go around their property that would intersect and then could be expanded into Dominguez Park as well. So when I look at understanding what their ideas are for trails on their property and how that could connect into Dominguez Park, I wonder. I see the decomposed granite, the redesigned trail that as it goes around, and it gives access to that new gate down by number 12. My question is, if maybe the intersection down by Flagler, is that going to be a part of this concept at all, or the slopes below the playground, that open space that kind of goes out to the street?
As of now, Commissioner Rodriguez, the scope of this project and the the budget assigned doesn't allow it to travel to the south, all the way to Beryl and Flagler Corner. That will be quite a lot of undertaking in terms of landscape management. I know that early conversations with the beach cities about integration as they seek to recapture that corner space that they own where the pumpkin patches and tree sales are in that corner near the Vons supermarket area. As they seek to recapture that corner for active programming and so forth, we know that they have planned a bike lane to come around the back of their property from the Diamond Street intersection on Prospect, and then travel around the back of their new facility footprint, winding up at that Flagler Beryl intersection. We did discuss also an updating of that intersection as a whole to make it more pedestrian friendly and safe. But I have not, the city has not seen anything more concrete from beach cities, at least I have not, that would indicate what we would be able to bring into Flagler. Largely, I think because of the topography of Flagler, obviously immediately becoming a 32-degree angle from Beryl up to 190th. But certainly the southern, to your point, their plan could then inform another project that seeks to enhance the lower corner of Dominguez to connect both trail and perhaps bike into this park.
Yeah, I think that would definitely. I think that would definitely be helpful, just knowing, and as far as a future concept as well of if ever those Edison Powerline corridors are opened up and become trail access, then Dominguez Park is right on that corridor, and so connectivity of these DG granite trails where they're flowing, I think, become really important of how to get people from corner to corner to corner. This park being kind of a center hub. And so I would only make a suggestion to consider either now or in the future along, see, what's the street name where the trees with the circular benches? Yes, that street.
This is Flagler.
Flagler, if the walking next to the sidewalk, if the DG granite, if there could be a walking path, if that could go up the side, creating more of a loop around the grass areas. And I think Commissioner Macaulay was kind of talking about that a little bit. Is if there's a new sidewalk that you're proposing on the top there on number 15, and maybe there could be DG, the trail wrapping around the top and somehow connecting over. Did the point of his other comment, Commissioner Macaulay's comment, in the opposite corner of the park down by the number 12?
Yeah.
Creating this, it's the same kind of thing, creating more flow, around the park. I'm definitely for ideas like that. And so I would make a comment on that. The other comment I had is about the garden planning. I've looked at a lot of these trees, and they're the coral trees. Is that right? And I'm not sure how a circular bench works around some of those trunks because they lay down and they're all different shapes and things like that. But I'm excited to see what concepts are going to come forth. And that site, when walking around, there's hundreds of boulders everywhere. There's maybe 4 or 5 very large boulders as well, scattered around and throughout the park. And like John was saying, they don't really have much of a design or purpose right now. I'm not really envisioning what number 17, how these boulders or how many boulders would be used, because it seems to me that there's a lot of rock there that could be used, and maybe it's much more than what I'm seeing in just this diagram. especially on the slope down by number 8. Those rocks are all concrete, so they're probably going to be ripped out, I imagine, or something like that. But my suggestion would be to run with the rock placement, to do whatever they're going to show us with these rock barriers and creating a sense of place around the trees. I'm definitely for that, but I'm also for using these rocks to scramble on and to climb about and to create flow, to create maybe another method of connecting upper and lower playgrounds together. If you're scrambling, right now the rocks are on each side of the stairway, and so you can scramble on one side of the rocks, or you scramble on the other side of the rocks, and so no one really scrambles on any of it because it's just too small. But if all the rocks, if it really were like a rock garden, something that had a lot of more dimension to it, and maybe using that with some of these other playground features that I'm seeing, then the rocks could really transform one of these empty grassy areas into an area that you could plant native plants around the rocks. It could be a garden. So I would just say, let's run with the reuse of those boulders, and it could potentially be something pretty interesting versus just kind of boring. Using the rocks for connectivity and flow and jumping and climbing. So I did mention, I was looking at, I see that there's space on here for garden space, but I'm not really sure what that means. Like around the number 14, there's a tree there. Lots of that area, it's just covered in roots, and I'm not really sure, and the sidewalk as it's planned, it goes down this little slope, but is the green space between the sidewalks, is that going to be garden space? Is that kind of what we're anticipating?
Yeah, so this wedge here, then this circular area underneath this tree was intended to be, an experiential garden space. How that's defined is currently undefined, but in terms of making it an active experience through, designed planting, but still be accessible for people to be inside of. So it's not just observed from the pathways, it's actually integrated and accessible in its area. But that was the concept, yes.
Well, if I could make a suggestion, I really like that idea. And my only suggestion would be to entertain ideas for native plant gardens, just because, as we were talking about before, native plant garden is also an opportunity for education and a reason for people to slow down and learn. And if it's just small areas like that aren't going to be used and blankets are going to be thrown down and so forth, then could be good. And I would also look at different opportunities throughout, like maybe back by the fence line, for native plant opportunities. Ultimately, I would love to see that whole slope, which is out of scope of this project, restored and something done with that, with trails and so forth. I think trails, it could be rethought in the park, and but I'm definitely for a slide or an earth slide, and for some of these features, and so I'm excited to see the next iterations of this. All my other questions were pretty much answered, though, so I appreciate it. But that's all for me.
Chair Stephen, Commissioner Burling has his hand up.
No, I thought I had it down.
Okay, no worries.
I already answered my question before. I can't see the screen whether it's up or down now.
Okay, it's up, but you can take it down if you want.
Oh, okay. Let me figure out how to do that. Oh, there we go. This button. Okay, I got it.
John, sorry, I'm trying to raise my hand again. I actually forgot there was one more thing if I could say.
Yep, go ahead.
John, did you say something about the potential for like outdoor fitness spots or things like that?
Well, what I
didn't see that in the line, but I heard you say that.
Yeah, so the existing perimeter trail in Dominguez Park has outdoor, I'll loosely call it fitness equipment because it's very old and very outdated. There is a separate CIP project to assess that perimeter pathway and the experiential fitness amenities along that path. We won't touch that project until SoCal Gas is done because they've just ruined it with their process. So once they're done, this park is active with CIP. So there's this project, there's the perimeter path and fitness amenities project, and then the dog park has another CIP for its improvements, which are being cooked up now, but really will in earnest start once the gas company is done, which is scheduled for the end of December of this year. So next year is all Dominguez all the time.
Well, that's exciting. So my question then, the area where the trees have circular benches around them, that grassy area, there's like 4 trees that are proposed. That area is, I see a lot of people doing exercise out there and doing their fitness and lounging on the trees and so forth, hanging their fitness equipment from the branches because they grow horizontal, and so it's like really easy to set up equipment. And I was wondering, since there's not much more concept for that area except trail and then benches and the rocks and so forth, if maybe just that people are already using that area for fitness, that could be something that's just brought up later, I guess. I know that there's different people that would rope in or throw up a slack line or something like that and do some balance work in that tree shaded area. So I'm not sure if there's anything that can be added to it, but I would just say that area is sensitive to that.
And that's great. The issue, if people using the organic elements of the park to create a fitness or recreation experience, like using 2 trees to connect a band, that's one thing. If we formalize that by saying this is for fitness, we have to also have it be fully ADA compliant. So you're almost talking about a dual installation and then the access to it, right? So that's probably going to push the budget out of this project beyond where we're allocated. So when we do the perimeter trail, that will have to be ADA compliant and the fitness equipment will need to be fully accommodated. But this panel will have the first crack at, here's the existing trail. What should it look like? Where should it go? What amenities should it have? We'll start that process with this commission.
Oh, I think
that's okay. Commissioner Barbarigos, your connection's a little wonky, but you'll come back, I know.
Did anyone else have a hand raised?
I see none.
Okay. Can I just chime in quickly then on a couple issues? The first thing that I want to ask is, I think I've asked this in the past, but I just want to make sure this project doesn't impact the Little League facilities here or the dog park. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then as far as this, I see a lot of mention of shade structures. Are the shade structures proposed sort of all over?
Again, Chair Corman Super, we are not at that level of design currently.
Okay.
So what happens when we issue the RFP is that's where we include that type of descriptive expectation for the vendors to respond to. And that's when we see the elevations, the cross-section views of their products and how they plan to incorporate shade and ADA play equipment and more swings and toddler swings, etc. Right now, it's just creating the space in which those vendors would fill with stuff.
Okay. So I guess my comment then is just, in the redesign of so many of these older park facilities, they've really done a good job of incorporating shade. And I think that is just such a good idea as much as possible. And then I do sort of second the sort of, it seems like what we have going here just from this initial redesign is looks a lot like it's trying to be a little bit like Hermosa's South Park with the nature, the netting and logs and rock. And I really like that look of it that we seem to be going for here. So as much sort of like native, naturey, logs, rocks, that type of thing. I really think that's a great way to go. And that's it for me. So I guess if no one else, Commissioner Rodriguez, are you back?
He was a minute ago.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, well, yeah. Well, if he comes back, we'll let him finish his thought, and maybe we should.
Yeah. I can take some time to read the public comment.
Okay.
There is one. Oh, sorry. There's one
I'm back.
Hi, Commissioner Rodriguez. I was just going to read the e-comment into the record. This comment is from Sheila Lamb. The company that has designed this playground has little experience in playground design and construction, let alone expertise in this area. I think the residents, and especially children, will be better served if a company that has expertise in playground design and construction were chosen to replace the Dominguez Park Playground. Thank you. That's the only e-comment we have for this item.
Okay. So do I need to do anything, John? Do we just need to file and?
We need a motion to receive and file the report, and for the record that your input will be advanced with the project. And I do appreciate all the varied input. It was very helpful. Great ideas.
Okay, great. So does someone want to make a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
I can do the roll call vote for you.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Almeida, you're muted. Sorry.
Yay.
Commissioner Burley.
Yay.
Commissioner Escontrias.
Yay.
Commissioner McCauley.
Yay.
Commissioner Barbarigos. Chair Carmen Super.
Yay.
Great. We still have a majority vote. It's okay.
Okay. All right. And we are moving along. The next on the agenda is J4, City Emergency Orders in response to the novel coronavirus and impact on recreation facilities and amenities.
Thank you, Chair. This is just a brief update for you. We obviously, this commission has not met since the pandemic began. And, when we started in late February, early March, it was a complete shutdown, as you'll recall, of every public amenity the city had, parking lots at the beach, all parks, all park facilities, all programming, etc. As you're aware, there have been incremental openings and reactivations as directed both by the state of California and as either initiated or codified by LA County. The city manager of Redondo Beach also served as the emergency manager of the city. And so it's through his orders as codified by the city council that we initiate any openings or closings and so forth, or policies related to helping prevent the spread of coronavirus. And the early orders that we had in August, when there was rumblings of maybe tennis might start up for single play, the emergency manager codified by the council aligned our recreation programming activations to those of LA County Health and LA County Parks and Recreation. So since August, we have reactivated tennis at Alta Vista and Anderson Park. It's now doubles play. So we have the leagues back, but they're all under very specific protocols. So there's no line judges, there's no spectators, etc. And they have to wear masks all the time unless they are playing. They can't share rackets. They have to mark their balls, etc. We've opened just last Friday. Sure, big news. All the city's playgrounds reopened last Friday. They were given an initial sanitization cleaning. And then the state provided all California agencies and counties with signage in English and Spanish, helping people remind them of the rules. Obviously, masks are a state law, but all the other protocols regarding distancing, hygiene, being aware of the occupancy count at the playgrounds, and a number of other rules. You have the example sign as an attachment to this report. It's the one in English. With the Public Works Department, all 21 of our playgrounds have those signs all over them for everybody who visits, and hopefully personal responsibility carries the day. This Friday, the 16th, we'll be opening the aviation track. That has been a feature that the City Council particularly has been very interested in seeing reopened. The public, for the large part, has been very respectful of its closure. Very few jailbreaks on the weekends. So we're excited to open the track back up for public use, again, with appropriate signage indicating, social distancing, hygiene, masks, and also suggested occupancy so that it doesn't get too crowded. Obviously, you have both walkers and runners there, so there is a lot of conflict of space and speed. So hopefully people are mindful of that as they use it. We're also going to start programming the field space, so not having it be just public open season for that field because it's very popular with soccer players and so forth. But we have enough rules that allow certain youth league practices and drills to happen that on that artificial turf they can really spread out, do those drills safely with the kids in masks, and they can pass a ball to one other person. The coach is 6 feet away. It's a burden, but they're going to try it. There are still a number of facilities that are still closed under the orders. Those include all 3 of our senior centers, Veterans, Perry, and Anderson. The Teen Center remains closed. The Historic Library in Veterans Park is closed. That's our special event venue there. The Aviation Gymnasium building, the 2 basketball courts, and the dance room, that is closed. The Performing Arts Center and Aviation Park is closed. The Community Center at Alta Vista is closed, as is the Racquetball Center. Our 2 museums in Dominguez Park that we just saw, those are closed. And even though the season is now over for swimming, the Seaside Lagoon is closed because it is used off-season for many special events, large and small, but those are also suspended until such time as large gatherings are permitted. So the City Council, pretty much with every meeting they have, receives an update from the city manager in his role as emergency manager on COVID response. The latest that we're hearing from the county, we're in communication at certain levels that we kind of know what's coming in terms of the next thing that might be allowed. So we knew playgrounds were going to be opening about 3 weeks before. So we were able to start producing the signage and get the cleaning and inspections done. And, we had to put swings back up at certain playgrounds and so forth. The next thing we're waiting for is the allowance of basketball and volleyball. We've taken all the hoops down at our various basketball facilities in town, obviously to prevent people from playing basketball. It's still happening, but they're unable to score. So eventually we're expecting some guidance on basketball play soon, as well as volleyball. Obviously, volleyball on the beach, even though it's not our beach to control, is something that's sorely missed by the community. Any of you have spent time in any of our large and medium-sized parks have seen community members erecting their own nets and playing volleyball. That's not permitted either under normal park rules, nor is it permitted under the coronavirus protocols. So, when staff becomes aware of those instances, we dispatch essentially an ambassador who has non-enforcement duties to remind those playing that, as I said, they're violating both park rules and COVID rules. That's typically met with thanks a lot, and they keep playing, at which point we will refer that to the police department. Then it's up to them to choose to do enforcement or not. They tend not to enforce just because obviously you're squeezing water at that point. There are people doing all kinds of things everywhere, whether it's in parks or in any public space or private spaces for that matter, that might be in violation of health orders. Last night, we met City Council and they received an update on our coronavirus status. And they referred an item to the Beach Cities Health District for conversation. Beach Cities Health District is going to be announcing a kind of a recovery roadmap program in the 3 beach communities. And it really deals with reinforcing the wearing of masks and the other health protocols and how that can lead to a quicker recovery of our businesses, our recreating and so forth. And so the council was interested to see if Beach Cities Health District can put a special emphasis on that program for our playgrounds and our parks so that they can dispatch even a greater layer of ambassador role to do more kind of positive coaching of the community if they see them without masks or congregating in large groups, etc., to try and reinforce. Obviously, that also comes without enforcement ability. Enforcement only belongs to the police department at this point. So if they so choose to go and, cite somebody or warn them to please, disperse, that really hasn't come to bear at this point. But we certainly are taking note of any instances where public spaces are being used in violation of park rules or health rules and referring that to enforcement authorities. So with that, I'm available for any questions about the city's response in general to the coronavirus or anything specific to community services and our park and rec activities. Thank you.
12 emails on this topic that need to get to the commission. Do you want me to read them and then email them to you? I know we're at the 9 o'clock hour here.
If you'd like, Commissioner Corbin Super, we will be having a COVID-19 item on the agenda and we no longer need to because we expect changes to what's going on, both on a facility level and a city level. So if you want to, you're welcome to read them into the record tonight, or you can submit them to me offline and I can add them to the December agenda. Your choice. Or you can summarize them and we can add them to the record.
Yeah.
Whatever you prefer.
Yeah. It seems pretty important to these people that they're read.
Please feel free.
Okay. Sorry in advance, guys, but it's an important issue, and parks, playgrounds have been open for less than a week and there's already a lot of issues. So the first email is from Kim Weiss. Hello, Kate. My name is Kim and I'm a Redondo Beach mom to 2 young kids, ages 7 and 5. Our neighborhood park is Anderson Park, and unfortunately a good number of folks simply refuse to wear masks or practice social distancing. This was the case even before the parks officially reopened. It is extremely frustrating that families like mine who follow the rules cannot enjoy the park safely because of others who selfishly choose to disregard the rules. I'm confident that enforcement in the form of citations would certainly help. To date, I have yet to see any type of enforcement at Anderson. Thank you. Next one, Bethany Eanes. Hi, Kate. First, we wear our masks. I appreciate you opening up public comment. My main concern is a fair and equitable application of laws. For example, I don't want a ticket for my 2.5-year-old not wearing a mask when an unhoused individual is sleeping on the bench next to us, no mask, and belongings that clearly represent a public health hazard. I also take objection to unpermitted fitness classes occurring next to us without masks if we are to be held accountable for wearing them. This uneven application leads to a lot of questions. If this is really about public health, then the law needs to be equally enforced. My next email from Dion Wu. Hi, Kate. Thank you. I live in Redondo. I think it's unfair for people who are following the rules to leave the parks because other people are not following. The concern is not just airborne transmission, but surface transmission. I think the main issue is that guidelines are vague. They say on the signage should wear a mask and not must wear a mask. The sign needs to be clear that everyone must wear a mask at all times at the park and social distance, that violating the mask policy will have consequences, and a phone number that people can call to report violators. It's incredibly unfair that people who follow the rules can't enjoy the park because of others who don't. If city council does not enforce this, then they are saying there's no need to follow this, which is exactly what people are doing. Please do your job and protect the people. Do not be vague about it. Next email, Rachel Andrews. Thanks for your work on parks. It is such a joy to have them open again. To reiterate what some have shared, I have noticed a distinct lack of cleanliness at both Robinson, Del Page, and Anderson Park. The bathrooms don't have soap or hand sanitizer. The equipment is covered in cobwebs, and there's no signage posted, or at least I couldn't find it, that encourages mask use and social distancing. I was hoping to see some hand sanitizer dispensers, social distance ground markers for waiting in line for swings, and couldn't find anything. Everyone I've seen has been respectful about mask wearing, with the exception of two guys with handlebar mustaches that I think didn't want to cover them up. At Robinson, the closest trash can to the play area is now quite far away from the action. Not sure if they will put one back by the play area. Next email from Kelly Spear. I have found that since parks reopened, there are too many adults not wearing masks. To be honest, I appreciate it when I see kids masks, but I understand that it's more difficult for them to keep them on. The adults, on the other hand, have little excuse. What if there were a mask dispenser at the parks where you could buy them for $1? I wonder if that might help with compliance. Also, I'd like to see hand sanitizer dispenser at the park or a portable hand washing station. Thank you for your time. Next email from Vanessa Grant. Thank you so much for fighting on our behalf for masks at the parks. I do not want them to get shut down again. Where I'm at, if you're in an open field or something, or in private, don't mask. But when we're all with our kids and might need to run in and help them at a moment's notice, it is so vital as the parents to protect each other and each other's kids. I understand that not every kid can wear a mask, but adults should be able to do better. With parents not on the same page, it's turning kids pitted against each other. On that thread, some mom said she trained her 4-year-old to say they don't wear masks because, quote, we're not scared, we're not afraid, quote. If we can all get on the same page and not be concerned about the masks or that they are being enforced, then kids can focus on playing and being kids. As you saw on Facebook, so many moms don't want to deal with the confrontation and said they would seek out smaller parks. It's just not fair to those that can't follow guidelines and prioritize their comfort and the health of community to win all the main parks because other parents don't want to get near them. Lisa Miller, we go to Perry Park quite a bit, and every time we go, over half the parents and kids there do not have masks. The signs explaining the rules are attached to the chain link fence on the far side of the park by the basketball court, and I think some people might just not see them. We need larger signs right in front of the playground equipment that state that masks are required. Next email, Sharona Adkins. Hi, Kate. My concern is the parents yelling at kids when on and around the structures. The guidelines indicate masks on and around the play structures, but it is being violated. How is this going to be enforced? What can regular parents do who do not want to fight with other parents to get people who do not wear masks away from our kids and the play structures? Almost at the end here, from Rebecca Davidson. I was at Anderson Park in North Redondo this morning with my 3-year-old. We all had masks and kept our distance, but there were 2 adults working out on the big playground there amidst the playground equipment without masks. The children who waited 7 months to use this playground couldn't use a third of it because these adults couldn't adhere to the rules and were giving children looks for encroaching on their space when 3-year-olds can wear masks, but grown adults can't seem to. Thank you for your work and dedication. The comments about if you don't like people not wearing masks, then leave, broke my heart. If you can't follow the rules, you shouldn't be allowed on the playground. This is second to last, Rainey Kumar. Hi, I'm extremely concerned about the anti-maskers in parks. My son is 2.5 and has sensory issues, so wearing a mask is extremely challenging. First of all, this is a horrible example to be setting for children. All the chatter about blindly following the rules when there's a literal global pandemic going on and hundreds of thousands have died. How can they have such wanton disregard for others that they would willingly flout this simple basic rule? Like most kids, my son is thrilled that the parkettes are open after 6 months of playing alone in the corner of a basketball field in Perry Park, but we only go when it's empty for his safety And it's extremely concerning that people are not only putting us and other neighbors at risk going into flu season, but also potentially jeopardizing our ability to continue to use them in the foreseeable future. Last email from Dorothy McGatlin. I'm definitely in favor of mask wearing being enforced in parks. My kids and I drove to 4 different parks one day just looking for one where kids were wearing masks. It seems unfair for my kids and myself to have to enforce it or stay home because others are not being as safe as possible. And that's it. That's it on this. So that's what I've got from the public just within the past less than a week.
Thank you, Chair. If you could make sure you submit those to me so I can add them to the record for this item.
Yes, I will. And yeah, I mean, just for the sake of full disclosure, my husband's a public safety commissioner. I've brought this to his attention as well. And, hopefully between some of the commissions that this involves, we can have a broader discussion about this. But I do think it's somewhat of an urgent matter.
Yeah, last night the city council did discuss this. You and your husband authored a very thoughtful public comment that was read into the record for the council. And they discussed, the broader issue of compliance. Commissioner Lowenstein discussed riding his bike along the bike path and seeing 50% compliance with masks. The Esplanade, the pier, the harbor, the stores, they chose not to take more direct action to the points of your letter that was submitted last night, but rather it was a discussion as to whether or not Redondo should have a mask ordinance or not. They chose last night not to discuss having a mask ordinance for the city. So that might be something that, if you want to discuss with your representatives for your interest in such a thing. Again, that's a paper rule. How you do enforcement, I have no suggestions.
Right. I mean, I just wanted to bring this to the attention of Rec and Parks Commission just because it is so specific to our parks and playgrounds now that they're open. I just thought it was important for everybody to sort of, have a pulse on sort of what's going on in the community. For those that don't know, Hermosa Beach and Manhattan Beach have altered their municipal codes and have hired, I don't know about Manhattan Beach actually, so I don't want to speak to them, but I know that Hermosa has hired an outside contractor to ticket to enforce, essentially, with the hope that eventually they'll be reimbursed by FEMA for that expense. And it is a matter of, you do a side-by-side of, I took a photo of one of our signs outside of one of our parkettes, and then a sign that was outside of a Hermosa park. And the signs are night and day. The Hermosa sign says masks must be worn, like this one of the emails said, and ours very simply says, should be worn. And there's a big difference because one can be, enforced and one can't. And, so people are not technically breaking the rules, I suppose, by not wearing their masks. It's county and state law, but it's not being enforced by the city. And so it's a real interesting scenario. And I don't want to start controversy, but at the same time, this is an issue that's come up before when with dogs, when we have this pilot program starting with dogs, and it's always been a question of what is enforced and not enforced in our parks. And because we're not enforcing, somebody threatened to call the cops on someone who had their dog in a park the other day, and I happened to be a bystander. And I said, well, I said to my husband, I said, well, I hope they call the cops because they won't come. And I mean, not that I would want them to for this poor person with their dog in the park, but that's sad that's the reaction. If there's a true crime, the cops will come. But just, we don't really have a feasible way to patrol or enforce rules of any sort in the parks. And I think that's a potential problem. So, you know, it's late, so we can table this and you know, I'll receive and file, send these to John, but you know, it's just you know, there's so many things closed right now, and I just feel like if you know, my kids can't play in their AYSO or their Redondo Sunset, which seems way safer in Mass, and you know, then these kids getting this close to each other in a playground, it just doesn't seem fair. So, you know, it's dicey, and it's hard when there are so many communities, or you know, a few communities like Hermosa, Manhattan, Redondo, and Torrance that all aren't on the same page. I think that makes it especially confusing for people. So yeah, that's it for my comments on this. Does anyone have anything that they want to?
You have hand raised. Commissioner McCauley has his hand raised.
Yes, Commissioner McCauley.
Thank you, Commissioner Corman-Suber. I appreciate you reading the 12 emails. I think that's important to get them in and for us to hear that, and I thank you for that. My hand up is for a question for John. With you mentioned the aviation turf field, that now that things are opened and the different organizations can use the field. I was just wondering, is that citywide? So are all the city parks open now for leagues to begin using the city fields?
Under the approved county guidelines for youth sports, yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Commissioner Almeida has his hand up.
Yes. My question relates to something we actually haven't talked about, which is the stairs at Avenue C. What's the timeline on those being opened up for exercise or walking or what have you?
Well, those stairs, that's county Los Angeles property. So I don't know that, but I'll try and have a follow-up to you if we have any information from the county on those stairs.
Yeah.
The county did shut down a few of their amenities up and down the Broad bike path in response to coronavirus. So it's easy to follow up to see if the county has given us any indication from the Beaches and Harbors Division as to those stairs.
I understand. Yeah, I mean, there's a big ramp right there as well, but some of us like to use the ramp to walk down and then walk up the stairs for the exercise. You know, and I thought it might be, maybe it's because there's 2 points of access there, but at Avenue A, I mean, it's a tight little ramp that you can walk all the way down to the beach. And I mean, if somebody was walking up at the same time you're walking down, there's just no way you can keep, you know, 2 feet of distance between you. And certainly the stairs at Avenue C are much wider than that. So I was just confused. I was thinking that when they opened up the parks, that was related to our city and that we could just unchain all of the, you know.
Right. Yeah. When we closed the Esplanade, the county informed us that they will be closing Avenue C because, as you know from using it, it's as busy as any gym in town.
That's the truth.
With exercisers. So I think it's a nod towards that congestion, but that's not to say that the county doesn't have maybe a schedule upon which it will open. So I'll be happy to follow up.
Appreciate that.
Commissioner Varvarigos has his hand up, Chair.
Yep, Commissioner Varvarigos.
Thank you. Just quick comment. I'm definitely grateful that these spaces are opening up and the need to wear masks and be out and use these spaces is very important. Personally, I understand that the police department does not have the resources to go around ticketing people for not wearing bike helmets, for walking their dogs in wrong parks, for all of these things. It's not just wearing masks, but it's a lot of things that the police department doesn't have the resources to go do, responding to calls of compliance. And personally, I don't know if I would want to live in a community where my residents are reporting me to the police department for whatever reason, for things like that. And so I would hope that ticketing and punishing and so forth is not necessarily the solution that we need to go about this, but we make clear signs and so forth. But, we're hoping that this pandemic goes away quickly, and we can't control that unless we are compliant. But to turn our community into people tattling and calling and taking pictures and sending them into a hotline and creating a new body of people who can go around and ticket people, it is definitely not the community that I want to be a part of. And so that makes me feel very unsafe in a way. Even though I support wearing masks, I always have my mask on. My boys, we go out, we have our mask, and we use Anderson Park in these facilities. And so I understand. So that's just my comment on that.
I see no other hands, Chair. And you're muted, Chair. Super.
I guess we can move on then.
Yeah, you can just do a motion to receive file if you like.
Oh, so I'd like to make a motion to receive and file all these emails that I just read.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Can the chair make a motion to John?
She should call for a motion.
Oh, sorry. So can somebody call for a motion to receive and file these documents?
Yes, I call
Commissioner Almeida.
Receive and file the documents, please.
I'll second.
And there are no public comments before the vote, just for the record. I'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Almeida? Commissioner Burling?
Aye.
Commissioner Escontrias? We lost Gil.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner McCauley?
Aye.
Commissioner Barbarigos?
Aye.
Chair Corman Super?
Aye.
Great, passes.
Okay. Moving along. We have member referrals, member items and referrals to staff. Does anyone have anything that they would like to refer to staff?
And just for our new commissioners, so you know, this is not only specific recreation topics. If you have something like there's a pothole or a sidewalk thing, you can refer those items and we enter them in the customer service database and it gets routed to the appropriate department and division. So it doesn't have to just be rec and park stuff, just so you're aware.
Commissioner McCauley?
Yeah.
He just answered my question. I was just wondering what we can introduce. Thank you.
Does anyone else have anything?
Commissioner Almeida has his hand up if that's for this item.
Oh, that was for another item. My apologies.
And Commissioner Barbarigos has his hand up, Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to take that off.
Okay.
If no one else, I have items. I have items. Sorry, it's me again, but I have a couple items. The first one is about Perry Park. It's a complaint about a dirty bathroom there.
I took a note when you were reading that public comment, actually.
What?
I took a note on that when you read the public comment.
Okay.
Somebody mentioned that in their public comment about the parks in general.
Yeah, this was specific though to Perry Park, that the bathroom is in disarray. There's never any toilet paper. Gross. Everything is gross there, basically.
Yes, I got that note. I took a note. Thank you.
Okay. And then there's something else about Anderson in regards to Anderson Park. There's concern that there's an ambulance that's parked outside of Anderson Park 24/7.
Yes.
With an individual who yells and is loud because people are disturbing her sleep. And this has been brought to my attention a couple times recently.
Yes, we are. My work with people experiencing homelessness, which is a citywide kind of shared topic. We're well aware of that live aboard, as well as the some other people in the park who park and live in their vehicles. We are exploring, among many other intervention steps with our service providers, we are exploring the feasibility of applying the parking hour regulations that we currently have at Dominguez Park, where every Wednesday you can't park in those parking lots from, I think, Gilly might help me, like 9 to noon or something like that. Public Works goes in and cleans those lots and so forth. We're looking at applying those same rules to Anderson so that those individuals who are experiencing homelessness and do live in their vehicles would have to clear, so that we could deal with the sanitary issues that are created when people live in vehicles and are in the same place for a long time, but also so that it actually lets us and our service providers more specifically have a knowable day each week that they can speak to and try and intervene with those vehicle operators to try and get them services to move to a safe parking location, which are throughout the county, or get them into some temporary shelter and other steps to help them out of homelessness. That's obviously a very complex equation, but we are, with the city attorney's office, looking at implementing those parking rules there. Not sure what day and what hours, but something to trigger that rotation of vehicles. So that's at least our first attempt to address that item.
Okay. All right. And my last thing, I promise, is just in addition to all these emails I received, there were several Facebook messages that I received just about, again, installing hand sanitizers or essential, like portable sinks in outside of parks. So there's a lot of comments about that.
Right. There was a brief mention of that last night during the city council meeting. The feasibility of 21 sanitizing and hand washing facilities throughout the city is not something that Public Works indicates they have either the budget or the manpower to both install and manage on a going basis. They are now implementing the rotations to deal with the installation and then the maintenance of the dog waste bag dispensers, and then the trash rotation in the parks based on that potential new element in the trash profile, if you will. So they need to get that tackled before they can consider dealing with 21 playgrounds and providing that to the community for approximately 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is what it would take.
Okay. Yeah, I just think people assume that these playgrounds are being wiped down multiple times a day. And so what I've done is I've just been, sending people the number for Public Works because I don't really know what to tell the public at this point. Is that what I should be doing?
That's absolutely acceptable. They can contact anyone in the city. They can contact me, Public Works. They can contact their elected officials. Ultimately, it's going to be the application of money and personnel to implement any new type of protocols across all the playgrounds. And right now, that's been reported to the council as not being possible. The city is facing a significant shortfall budgetarily. We each cut between $0.5 and $1.5 million from our budgets, and that was people. So there is more to do with less people. But if the council chooses, whether it's at a regular meeting or strategic planning or otherwise, to say we want this, then they will have to ask us to tell them how that gets paid for and how it gets staffed. And it will likely come at the expense of something else that's getting paid for and staffed. So, because we've already expended our federal CARES money, we got about over $800,000 from CARES fund, general CARES reimbursement. It's already spoken for. So, that said, the point is well taken, and the city does have the equipment to sanitize, but it's what frequency can that happen on? But to the point of some of those emails and your points that were made last night, Commissioner, Chair Corman Super, it may be, it's obvious that some enhanced signage is appropriate to lay the hammer down a little harder to tell people the playgrounds are not currently cleaned and masks are state law. And if you don't comply with the rules, the playgrounds could be shut down again. So, because the city can be more restrictive than the state or the county. We can't be less restrictive, but we can be more restrictive. It's like the county can say no to a state mandate. In this case, they said yes to the playgrounds, and so did the city and every other city that I'm aware of. But we can be more restrictive. So we can certainly enhance the signage to be a little more heavy. We're trying not to be, so negative, but certainly we can enhance, and also to the other email, make sure that the visibility of signage is 360 at all the playgrounds, which is important.
Okay. All right. I received a lot, but I think that covers it. So, unless there's anything else, any more referrals, we'll move on to adjourning the meeting.
So you just need to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Can someone make a motion to adjourn? Okay. Second? Someone second?
Great. Roll call vote. Commissioner Almeida? Thumbs up. Commissioner Burling? Thank you.
Aye.
Commissioner Escontrias?
Yes.
Commissioner McCauley?
Aye.
Commissioner Barbarigos? Chair Corman Super. Great. Thank you, everybody. We are adjourned. We'll see you in December.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.